Late.
It's all right. Go.
Okay. Panic. No. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Alliance, your home on the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network for any and all things Star Wars. I'm your host, as always, Katie. Even though I've been gone for the last 2 weeks, technically. But yeah, I'm always here, kind of, sort of. And joining me, as always, is Clay. Clay, how are you doing today?
I am doing pretty well. Um, you're not gonna hear this because of my editing skills. Um, but Amberlyn just started screaming her head off like right when you press live. So I was like, hold on. But we're good. Y'all shouldn't hear anything, hopefully. But yeah, other than a baby who has starting to not be okay with going to sleep at a certain hour, she thinks she can stay up with the rest of us, you know? Uh,
Yeah.
it has been a little bit of a nightmare, but other than that, things have been okay. Been a good
Very
week.
nice. Very nice. Meanwhile, I get to experience the lovely thing that is pregnancy heartburn. So we're just gonna leave it at that.
Hopefully Abby got in touch with you and y'all were able to talk it out. Abby dealt with a lot of things during pregnancy, like everything that people go through.
Yeah.
There are certain things people go through and there's certain things people don't go through. Some people are lucky enough to not get some things from pregnancy.
Yeah.
Abby hit every branch on the pregnant tree.
Yeah.
It sucks. So
That's about where I think I've been, unfortunately. The heartburn I think was the last thing. Um that like non like pre-contraction stuff.
yeah.
So hopefully though we came up with some remedies yesterday. It's been an okay day today. So y'all, we have several things to go over today. You have my reaction to the one and only Asajj Ventress coming back. Um
Yes, I want to
and
hear.
everything.
I've heard an opinion about Dark Disciple. We will get there when we get there, but I want to know if it's true or not. But I will hold it until we are there. But I heard
Okay.
something pretty like in the realms of like how good the book is. It's
Yes.
a pretty hot take. So I want to hear from you when we get there.
Yes, because Nathan and I did review Dark Disciple, but Clay and I are going to try to fit in a review so that we can be prepared before the Bad Batch starts of February 21st. But before we dive into all the news and reactions and our review of Daniel Jose Older's and Alyssa Wong's Escape from Valo, and I'm down here on the ground, but like, here is the book cover in all its lovely glory.
Got it right
Thank you
here.
so much, Disney Publishing, for sending these our way. We greatly appreciate it, as always. And we did get Defy the Storm. So you can expect that review um on time as well with the week of release, just so you guys know what to expect. That will be a separate review from our typical that will be a separate episode from our typical weekly release because of the Bad Batch. So that will be a separate episode, so that way you guys also have an episode to look forward to that week. So, but first things first, Percy Jackson and the Olympians. The season finale, excuse me, not the series. We don't know yet. It has not been renewed for a second season.
Yeah.
Um, but I I really, based on how the season went, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it had the best action of the season by far. Um, Lance Reddick is an angel, and I will miss him greatly.
So
He killed it.
one thing that kind of broke my heart when watching this episode, um, you get to see a lot of close-ups of
Mhm.
Lance Reddick. Um, and it looked like he had jaundice. His eyes were yellow. And I looked it up. One of the one of the rare symptoms of heart disease is jaundice. So
Oh,
like you can see it even in this episode, which unfortunately is
wow.
the only episode that he's in for this
Yeah.
season. Uh, and I was just like, "Oh, man, that sucks." But his performance was so good. I will always, 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 and I think I'm gonna go play some games that he, did some voice acting in. His voice is so booming
Mhm.
even when he is as calm as can be. And I think that's like, his voice was made for entertainment, and I'm so glad that
Yeah.
we were able to get him in so many different things, but especially his portrayal of Zeus for this one episode. I really did enjoy it.
Yeah. I honestly and I know it's too soon to think about it, um, but I don't know how you replace him. And I don't think Zeus is in I can't remember. I know you haven't read it, but I don't think Zeus is in much of the Sea of Monsters.
Mhm.
Um, I was about to say something and then I was like, I don't want to spoil it. So,
Well, like, I have questions. Hopefully you can answer them without spoiling too much. But
okay.
I think this episode was the most that we have veered from the source material of the original book, not necessarily of the series, because a lot of stuff that happened in this episode, I assume, are little like tidbits that we have gotten in the prior book or in the sequel books. I'm not entirely sure because, again, I have not read them, but it had a lot of setup. Whereas Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, when you read that book, it has very little setup. It's just like, we went on an adventure, happy ending. Oh, and there could be some stuff that's coming up, you know? There's always the
Yeah.
possibility. This set everything up for what feels like a while, you know?
Um, I don't exactly remember the end of the book. I do know so it veered off because um like Zeus was the only god in the throne room in the
Mhm.
series and Poseidon was there because he makes it back before the summer solstice in the book.
Yes.
So and I think the fire goddess was there too. Hecate, I think she was there
So
tending the fire.
in the book, when Percy goes into Olympus, he sees many people or many gods
Yeah.
or deities or whatever. And uh they're kind of all just watching him like, "Oh no, like he has
Yeah.
the bull, he's the thief," like kind of having these menacing eyes on him. But there was uh Poseidon was there because there was a little bit of back and forth when Poseidon even said like he's come here with the bolt, like,
Yeah.
he's giving this up to you and apologizing for all that it's caused. Like, give him some time to talk, you know?
Yeah. I
So
didn't
Poseidon was there in the book.
Yeah, he was there in the book. I just couldn't remember if there was, like, another god in there because I know Athena wasn't there.
Mhm.
Um, but, like, I think it was, like, the goddess who tends the fire and everything. Um, but I don't mind this change at all because I feel like this helps cement Percy as, like, it helps cement Poseidon as, like, okay, maybe Luke was wrong. Maybe the gods aren't all that bad because
Mhm.
I think Percy was getting there in the last episode, um, where he was kind of figuring things out. He was having more faith in the, okay, I need to actually finish this versus just get my mom. Like I have to finish this.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that helped. Other than the Olympus scene, which I don't know how much you can say this specifically veers off from the book because of the choice to have um them not hit the summer solstice. I think a lot of that is a repercussion from that. Um, but I mean, I feel like the conversation mirrors very close to what's in the book. It's just Zeus doesn't like bring the lightning bolt to kill Percy, and Poseidon doesn't surrender because a war hasn't begun.
Yeah.
So it cements Poseidon as more of like a human who's willing to sacrifice for his kid.
And that was one thing that I felt more emotion in the show than I
Did I go
did
out
in
or
the
did you go
book.
out?
I
Oh,
think you
that was me.
froze for a second. Yeah. Um
You also froze for me, so it's always I don't know what to do.
editing magic, I will fix this. Um but there was a little bit more emotion in the show than I got in the book in this moment where uh like Percy is asking about his mother. Um and I can't remember uh in the book, I do remember. In the book he talks about how like, oh, like your mother is all I think about. She's like a goddess within herself and like all of these like really sweet things about her. But the silence in this episode and just the raw emotion in his face,
It hit
it
so hard.
speaks so high on the volume. Like it's so good. I love that choice and him with the pearl just like dropping it and sending Percy back. Like there's so much he wants to say to
Yeah,
Percy, but he knows like we know what his birth has caused and the tension that is
yeah,
rising between Zeus and Poseidon within itself. So like I can totally see like, hey, if I start gushing about your mother, you're going to have expectations of me
yep,
and you're going to think that we can be a happy family and things like that and it's just not possible. So instead, I'm just going to have you go on your way. Like that
yeah,
hurts a little bit, but I love like the emotion in there.
yeah. The next thing that happens is uh, we skip the where he goes from Olympus to the apartment. Because
Mhm.
that's the next scene in the book. And in that scene, I kind of summed this up for Matt last night because I was like, okay, this, like, I wanted, especially with the post credit, I wanted to like
Well, did
extrapolate.
you saw the end credit scene, didn't you?
Yeah, the post credit scene. Yeah, I saw
Okay,
that.
yeah. So, I mean, it kind of just switched, like, the scene of
Yeah,
going to the apartment versus what we got for the end credit scene. It kind of, like, is exactly what that is. The only difference is one thing that we've kinda
Sally doesn't
just
actually do it.
yeah, exactly. Sally doesn't do it, which I think is good because it shows both, uh a good side of Sally and Percy. Like there's so much like anger and resentment towards him, and instead they wash their hands of him. They just like, okay, we're done with him. We want nothing to do with him. And just having the extra effort and like turning him into stone is kind of like that's kind of messed up. This way, it is totally his own fault. He did it to himself, and I think that choice is even better.
Yeah, I can agree with that, but I also really enjoyed because the abuse that Gabe like performs is more articulated in the book, and you can see
Yes.
it in her
Y
like
and
Percy says he can see it in her face in the
well, and that's another thing. In the book or yeah, in the book, it outright says like, "Oh, like, I've never seen him hit her, but in that moment, I could make the assumption that she's been hit before." And like
yeah,
there's like all of these mixed emotions and he like wants to fight him right then and there and like and Sally's like, "No, don't do it. You're okay. Like I'll have things figured out." And that's when he gives her the idea of the Medusa head.
yep,
Here in the show, the abuse was much more verbal and I feel emotional. Uh
which is still bad.
and
Let's be clear.
which is still very, very bad, but they toned it down a
I
lot.
made it kid friendly.
It made it kid friendly, but I also think, like, just as, like, "Hey, we don't wanna get bombarded by, like, trigger warnings from people,"
Yeah,
which is a double-edged sword because, like, for one, like, you're right, like, if you would've done that, I don't think it would've been kid friendly anymore, but at the same time, like we need to show that that stuff is actually happening, and like maybe we find a way to show that like, hey, there's people out there to help you in those situations. Like I said, it's a double-edged sword. But the way they came across it in the show, I think still you were still able to see, okay, he's a bad person and they got away from him. And that's
Yeah.
ultimately what the good thing was.
Yeah. Um, and so like Poseidon sends Percy back to Half-Blood Hill, Half-Blood Camp. Um, and he stays there like the rest of the summer is what it looks like. And then he goes back and Chiron, it looks like Chiron's trying to convince him to stay for the full term, which is the full year. And Percy's like, I'll come back if she's not there.
Mhm.
And so he ends up going it okay. This is where I got a little bit lost with the Chronos stuff. Um Also, Andrew is in the chat. He said he loved the show. He also said that the Luke twist was crazy unexpected for me. I did forget about that. We need to talk about that first.
Yes.
Before Percy
Uh
goes home. I'm sorry.
So, Andrew, if you would like to either mute or if you're okay with minor spoilers of the book, because I did see in the chat that you are now reading the books, which is totally okay. I know
Yeah,
that you were gone the time where me and Joe talked about this, but there's a lot of discourse still for some reason about like, oh, you have to read books in order to be a fan of something that becomes live action and things like that. Like people
yeah.
find books because of shows, just like Andrew. Like he watched the
Yep,
show, it gave him interest, and now he's reading the books. And that is totally fine. And it's totally fine if you don't decide to read the book. It's okay.
yep.
Like, so the twist with Luke. So this was one of the major changes in the sense of how dramatic the twist is. Um, in the book, minor spoiler, there is still the fight between him and Luke, but Percy is poisoned and
By a
then
scorpion.
by a scorpion, and then Luke just vanishes. That's it.
Yeah.
Here, there is a whole plot device set up. Hey, I have this magic sword that can take us anywhere. I'm a soldier of Kronos. We're going to go to the golden age where he was ruling and like all like it was so much. And again, I have not read any book other than the first book. So I do not know if this traveling to the golden age was introduced in any other book. Katie is
I
trying
I
so hard
I
not to
don't
say anything.
remember. I don't remember. Yes, I'm trying very hard not to say anything because I don't like
And
I
it's okay.
remember what
It's
happens to
okay.
stupid monsters.
It's okay to say, like in my mind, I think it's okay to say, yes, this plot device is in another book. Cool. Like that, I think
I
that is
don't
okay to say.
So, yes. If that's okay to say, then yes, it is present. And that's where I think um they do a lot like you were talking about, they're doing a lot of setup for future
Mhm.
seasons. And I believe it was Rick Riordan said that the writers room is having a blast right now for season 2, but again, nothing's been greenlit so far. Um I liked the difference in this fight. I don't know how I feel about Backbiter opening up portals.
Oh,
Um,
that because he didn't give it a name, so Backbiter is the name.
no, he did. He called it Backbiter.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't hear that. Okay, okay.
so remember in the book, he talks about Backbiter because of
Has the ability to hurt both
yeah,
mortal and man,
yeah,
or
it's
mortal and
Celestial
god. Yeah.
Bronze and then Steel.
Yes.
Um, Andrew is I've heard that book 2 is the worst of the series. Do you agree? It has been such a long time since I've read book 2, and Clay and I are probably gonna read book 2 later this year when I get back from having baby. So
Yes,
uh
the review will be up, just like the first book review is up on our
on
Patreon.
Patreon. Yeah.
It will be a part of our book club that we will be adding onto the list. Yeah.
Yeah, but to answer your question, Andrew, I don't I love this series so much. Clay and I have talked about it. I've read the series probably 15, 20 times since it was fully released. This we actually went to Books a Million the day the fifth book was released so that we could all get the copy and be able to read it. So like I and this is like Star Wars for me. I don't probably Sea of Monsters is probably like the one that I like the least, but that doesn't mean it's not good, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to say that because that like tells you the entire plot of book two. So, um, I will. Here's what I'll say. I will say it reuses a lot of some of the Greek mythology, um, for this one, which might make people go, I like this one not as much because it doesn't really tell a new story, if that makes sense. I'll leave it
For
at that.
me, I am need all I'm needing is for there to be progressive character development
Uh-huh.
and plot development, like progression.
Yeah.
Like that's what I need when it comes to a story. Everything else is like really subjective, but when it comes to a series of books, if you're stuck in one place for like 3 or 4 books, that's bad. As long as the story moves forward, I can give them the okay to be like, okay, like you're doing something right here. So I'm not
S
worried too much about like if I'm going to expect like even if I had heard this rumor like oh 2 is the worst book. I like I still have zero expectations because I'm brand new to the series. So
yeah.
I don't think it'll be much of a problem for us who are reading it for the first time.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, Grover's already kind of hinted towards where it's going in the next book. So, and obviously the title, The Sea of Monsters. Um, so uh the Walker had said that he and Leah had started like swim lessons, like intense swim lessons to get prepared. So I'm excited for what's to come. Um the graphic novels are great. I have not read them myself, but I've seen some of the pictures and they're great. Um so okay, so the ending of this. So we get a lot of Kronos dreams. And we don't
Mhm.
have to go into mega detail on these because again, they're doing a lot of setup for what's to come. Um But then what do you think about how Percy called Poseidon Sir and then called Kronos Grandpa to Sally? Because we get a
So
time skip.
I I was a little like because again, like I think for one, Percy for a while, like he didn't have a family. He just had his mom.
Yep.
But now through this series of events and this adventure, this quest, not only did he meet his dad, he met his half brother in Ares. Like he's like seen more of his cousins than he could probably like care to count with, Camp Half Blood, like technically. Uh and so like he has a family now. And I think it's a little bit of a joke more so than anything. Because even Sally says, "Oh, I told you to stop calling him that."
Yeah.
Like, so I think it's just like a small little like haha thing. Um, but saying "sir" to Poseidon, this would be out of character, but through the visual adventure that we've all seen Percy go through, I think that this shows character development in realizing like this is my father, I need to respect him in some manner.
Yeah.
Um so
He shows
I,
more respect for his father than he does for Zeus.
yes, and I did enjoy that small little, like, it's just a little bit of, something there. Um, but I enjoyed that. I did enjoy that conversation, and we talked about the emotion and all of that stuff. Um, but the the Chronos stuff, because they got me. They got me. When he went to the beach house and Sally was there, they were hugging, and then all of a sudden, poof, it's time to wake up. And then Kronos was there. I was like, oh shit. Um, like
I
for a
did
split
you real
second, I will say for a split second, I was like, if this is all a fucking dream and they just threw away the entire first novel, it gave me a
uh,
split second of like, I hate this show. But they like, I would like to know like how much time between him leaving camp and that day of going to school in 7th grade, like how much time has passed? Like,
I don't think much time has passed because and now granted they changed the time spans in the book, so this could be different.
mhm,
But like it's supposed to be they leave and it's a couple days before school. So, but I would say it's probably been 2 weeks, I would say, because of how relaxed he is with Sally, being present.
mhm.
It did not get me because I was like, "Why are they at Montauk?" Like, he knows, like, yes, this was not the last place, like, she was at. Like, yes, they were, like, sleeping there and they were on vacation, but, like, that's not gonna be because she disappeared at Half-Blood Hill. So if she's anywhere, she's gonna be like, if she's anywhere
At
as
the
like
entrance of Half Blood Hill,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So if she was anywhere, like if Hades was gonna drop her at the last place she was, then it would have been the entrance of Half Blood Hill. So that's where I was like, okay, she was dropped off in New York somewhere and just went back to the apartment. Like
Mhm.
it I was like, how do I feel about this? Like, but the dream, it makes sense because Percy loves being at that cabin. And so him walking in to find his mom, that just made a lot of sense to me. Um,
Who I wanna know, because if you paid attention during that scene, you could somewhat see a face to Kronos. Like, you can kinda tell, like, a mouth, it looked like there was a mustache. Um, I don't know who played Kronos, though.
um,
Was there any credit to the voice of Kronos?
Nick Barain,
Hmm,
South African actor. Uh, he was in For All Mankind on Apple TV. He was in Designated Survivor, Chicago Fire. Um, I don't recognize any of his movies really.
hmm,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Alright.
Um, yeah, he sounded familiar. Um, I will be interesting to in, interested to see how they choose to portray him because he does have more of a presence, a physical presence upcoming. So, I was gonna say something about the fifth book and then shut my mouth. Uh, the fifth book is definitely the most memorable. I'm excited for when we get to that. We have a lot of reading to do this year. Otherwise, we'd probably get to it sooner, y'all. But um, yes.
I
I think that's about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what this means for both Percy and Kronos. Because he does say like, "Hey, your survival is actually the key to my return." Like, it's like he tricked Percy, like, even though it all felt like the trick was to get Percy to give him the bolt, but that may have just been like the backup plan, you know? So it's gonna be very, very interesting. I really do hope that they greenlight this sooner rather than later instead of just like having us sit
Well,
on our hands and just wait.
yeah.
Um from what we have seen from these numbers, this show is very popular. It's receiving a lot of views. And I really do hope that this is a sign to Disney to say, hey, like maybe we should greenlit this already for season two.
Yeah, I mean to get the second through fifth episodes, and this is just sourced off of Wikipedia, just because I'm on here. Um, the second through fifth episodes each have amassed at least 10 million viewers after 7 days, which is pretty impressive. I mean, this is a kid show, so it's going to be prioritized as such. It's not going to be like, oh, let's watch it late night. Like, no, it's going to be okay. Is kids done doing homework? Okay, let's sit down and do this.
Yeah.
Or Friday night watching, those kinds of things.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm excited to see how it goes. I know Leah has already been nominated for the NAACP Image Awards for Outstanding Performance by a Youth. And the series cast has also gotten a nomination for Family Film and TV Awards. So, as well as some behind the camera stuff. So, very excited to see where this goes. And I know like all of the kids are like the main trio is very excited for what's to come. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, so I have been bombarded on TikTok with people who are fans of the book series who are watching the show. Apparently there was a lot of Easter eggs for future seasons slash future books um in a lot of these episodes, in particular the Lotus Hotel or Lotus Casino
Yep.
episode. There is apparently some possible demigods that were at the
That is a connection to book 3.
yeah.
Um,
So apparently the names can be heard being yelled out.
Yes, I did in fact go back and look, and listen specifically. If anybody's curious, it's one of the scenes with Grover,
Yeah, and
um,
the
on like the
actor
VR games.
the actor who plays Grover even confirmed this prior to the season even coming out. He said, "Oh, like there's even some episodes that, uh have actual name call outs, so be on the lookout for that." And people were connecting the dots with that interview with the Lotus Casino episode.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited to, continue reading the series. Um Wherever the book 2 falls on the schedule for this year, that's when I will be reading it. And that's probably when I'll be picking up each of these books. Just because we are always going to prioritize Star Wars novels, and we just finished, of course, Escape from Valo, which are we are going to be reviewing tonight. We have oh shoot, what's the other book that we have?
Defy the Storm is the beginning of March.
Yeah, Defy the Storm is something that I'm gonna immediately probably start reading this week. Uh, and we're only gonna be getting more and more books announced
Yeah.
and or released for this year in the next few years. So uh, I'm not in a rush to uh, go out and buy the Percy Jackson books. I think that it being a slow burn is going to be probably what's going to satisfy me the most with this series.
Yeah, I would say probably after book 2, you're gonna want to get into the rest of I would just that's my guess.
Andrew,
So
yeah, Andrew, you're asking if we will be doing Dark Disciple. We have talked about it, and we are going to try and put it into the schedule before the release of the Asajj Ventress episode. Depending on how busy we are with
yeah,
everything else that is coming out, we not we may not be able to get it out before the very first episode of season 3.
yeah.
But we will for sure try to get the review out uh before the Asajj Ventress episode. So that way we have it fresh on our minds as far as context of anything that might show on that episode.
Yes. And now technically the show already does have a review on Dark Disciple. It was a couple years ago with Nathan. So that will, if you're interested in like going ahead and listening to a review, you can just search Star Wars Alliance Dark Disciple. I don't believe it's on the solo feed. I believe it's only on the joint feed, so the Geek Ultimate Alliance feed. So you would have to search Star Wars Alliance The Dark Disciple, or you could probably just search Dark Disciple, and you should be able to find that episode.
Yeah,
Um,
if anything, if we're not gonna make an entire episode for that review, we will still read it and probably give my thoughts because it'll be the first time that I am reading that.
yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Alrighty, are we ready to dive into the news? Because I think that was the perfect transition point for me to talk about how I feel about Asajj Ventress. Um,
Well, yes, yes. You go ahead and wrap up some things that you missed while you were gone. Because
what else did I miss?
I got something in the mail that I want to talk about.
Got something in the mail? Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, I have not opened that yet. So, like, it's
Yeah.
sitting on my shelf, but I haven't opened it yet.
Yeah,
Um,
my grandmother said that, I received this, like, right after, I think it was either right before Christmas or right after Christmas, and so she had to send it to
yeah.
me. So, I wanna talk about it because there's a new timeline. Like, there is a actual
Uh, there's
two-page
a
timeline here
Yeah,
that
there's a timeline, but it's like it's kind of what we all assumed. So, but it's
yeah,
like
but I
official now.
it is official, but there's a cutoff here that technically, like, we're gonna get more of in phase 3 that they technically can't put in here, so it automatically like, there's already gonna be a volume 2 of this thing, so
That's what I get annoyed with by them doing like the Art of the High Republic and then the character encyclopedia because I'm like, I just want all of it. I want it all in one book. I don't want to have to buy a volume two. But maybe that's just me being cheap. Um, okay, so Asajj Ventress in the Bad Batch. I had like intense feelings on this initially, and I saw this trailer because it dropped what, Tuesday of last week?
yes, Tuesday, yep.
Yes. So I saw it on the beach like 6 minutes after it dropped. I just happened to open Twitter like the one time, like that. I think that was the first time I'd opened Twitter that day and saw it. So we got it watched, and I saw Asajj Ventress, and I was like, hang on, this takes place after the Dark Disciple. So what is she doing here? And then so like I got all angry about it originally, and then as I thought more about it, I was like, okay, well we've already seen Maul come back with Night Sister magic, and she was dropped, like she was buried in a pool where she was welcomed back by the rest of her sisters. So it's completely plausible with the history of the Night Sisters that she returns. And then I saw the quote from the produce one of the executive producers on the show, where he said Dark Disciple will be 100% respected. Um, and like her bio has still stayed the same. It just has like there's been a sentence added to it, but like there's more to her story. So what happens next? I think is the StarWars.com bio for her now. Like on the end of what was there previously. So I know, and I had put this in our Star Wars Alliance chat. The Star Wars Alliance, Star Wars Alliance, Star Wars Resistance, had originally conceptualized one of the characters, Mika Gray, as an older version of Asajj Ventress. Um, and an early version of the episode Relic Raiders would have had her facing off with Kylo Ren. Um, and this was an interview with done by Friends of the Force, which is another Star Wars podcast on the interwebs. So Dave Filoni, however, cut this part off because Ventress felt she may eh, he felt Ventress may draw too much attention away from the series' main characters. And so that's when it was rewritten.
I have to call bullshit on that reason because how many times in Clone Wars or Rebels did we get somebody who, for us fans, were like, I don't care about anybody else. except for Ahsoka, or I don't care about anybody else but Rex. I don't care about anybody else. Like, it's happened before. I call that reason bullshit.
But you haven't watched Resistance. There is a reason, and I'm not like Resistance has its fans, y'all. And
There's
I
not
don't,
enough of them.
yeah, I don't dislike Resistance. It is definitely the worst Star Wars show, though.
Eesh.
um, which our plan was to get into Star Wars Resistance the next 2 weeks. We will see how that goes. But
Yeah.
um, so yes. So I got asked about this, and I'm like, as long as Dark Disciple is actually respected, I'm good with anything. And these guys, Dave Filoni is just a producer on this show. Um, and a lot of these people who are doing Bad Batch were participants in Clone Wars and everything. And you get the original scripts for Dark Disciple, for the Dark Disciple sorry, y'all, my brain is a wash today. Um, there so Dark Disciple was originally a Clone Wars arc, and the scripts were full on handed to Christy Golden. And Katie Lucas, who wrote the scripts, like participated with the book, wrote the intro. So to me, yes, I'm mad about what happened with Ahsoka being like the Ahsoka novel being trashed. But to me, Dark Disciple is one of the least likely books to get trashed in the canon timeline because of the fact that it was a labor of love to get this story published after Clone Wars was canceled. And so many
Yeah.
people participated in making sure that the story could get published. And I know Ahsoka was kind of the same way, but it really wasn't because there was no scripts handed. Ahsoka is a fully original story with some feedback from Dave Filoni involved from um his thought process for what the Siege of Mandalore should be.
Yeah.
So I am hopeful. And we will obviously judge when the episodes get here. Um, but since they've already addressed it, and people got mad on Twitter about this, about like, oh, like so many fanboys complaining, like they have to actually address this in an interview. No, I think it's right when, especially especially when it comes down to like overwriting pieces of canon. I think you need to address it up front and just be like, oh yeah, we're gonna trash Dark Disciple, or no, we're gonna fully respect Dark Disciple. I think it was
Not
the right move.
not only respecting canon, but in the sense that one creative takes 4 to 5 different pieces of other people's work and tell another creative, "Hey, this is all material that you can use to create a new story about these beloved characters." Like, it was such a large collaboration
Hmm.
to kind of have a thought of, like, "We can just throw that in the trash." That's kind of shit. And so,
Yeah,
like, like, I I I I agree with you. It's something that needed to be addressed. Um, and for one, um, the idea, you know what? A friend of mine recently asked. He's a good friend of mine. He has his own YouTube channel. Won't plug it here because it does have it inappropriate things. Um, but he is making a new video about how uh the idea, is there any fictional woman character that is so evil, but at the same time, people absolutely love them, that no matter what they do, they'll still love them. I think I think Asajj Ventress is that character. Like, I
yeah,
honestly do. So
uh-huh,
I'll need to text him real quick after this and let him know about that character. But I do think Asajj has such a niche fandom that is equally large, that
yeah,
it was something that needed to be addressed. Like, this character was like one of the original characters that popped up in the Clone Wars era that immediately got
yeah,
loved by so many people. I think her first appearance, correct me if I'm wrong, again, I am the newbie here. I don't know if she appeared first in novels or the 2D animated Clone Wars shorts?
I I think it's the 2D animated,
Yeah, okay.
shorts.
Like, that was very short-lived, but people loved her so much, they were like, "Okay, let's add her into the 3D animated Clone Wars and actually develop her character." So much so that
Yeah.
she was put into novelization, with, Dooku Jedi Lost, like,
Mm.
right? Is that the correct title? I think it's
Yes.
Dooku Jedi Lost and now, Dark Disciple or Dark Disciple back in 2015. So, like, she has a big fandom. It needed to be addressed, and I'm glad that they did address it.
It looks like potentially it was actually Jedi Mace Windu, which is a comic series written by John Ostrander. It was released in February 2003.
Oh.
Um, and just checking real fast. Hang on. Okay. Um, and so then the first Clone Wars short that she was present in was Clone Wars Chapter 6, which was released November 15th, 2003. So it was actually
So
the
it was
comic
the
series.
and then Ostrander was, the creator, if people don't know, he created or co-created, the Suicide Squad, which is why he
Ah,
worked with, James Gunn in the Suicide Squad movie. So, very cool.
gotcha.
Um, yeah,
The only other thing
I was
I
gonna
wanted
ask
to talk about,
what else is there to talk about in the news? Yeah.
so the other, just the last thing with Asajj Ventress, so many people are like, Man, why can't death just be respected in Star Wars?" And I don't necessarily disagree with that. However, a lot of people who are saying it are the "Oh, Legends was better" kind of people. And I think it was Jordan Mason tweeted out the full list of people who had come back from the dead in Legends. And it was like 7 or 8 people, but it was all guys, pretty much. So
See,
you have
that's what I was also gonna ask, like, how many
yeah,
women have come back from the dead?
yeah.
Um,
So shut
and
your mouth on
at that
legend on death has never been respected in Star Wars.
At that, it's a female alien that is coming back, so
Yep,
even better. Yeah, like, I think the idea of death being respected, um, is kind of an oxymoron because there's so many deaths that have been respected in Star Wars that literally cement Star Wars as what it is, and so you're just like, there it is. But yeah, there's uh because I'm sure those people have no thoughts about Anakin Skywalker seemingly just popping up out of nowhere as a force ghost helping Ahsoka save the galaxy eventually, right? Yep, like
yep,
they probably don't have anything
yep.
to say about that.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So that was the only other thing I wanted to mention. It was like, get that shit out of here, y'all. Get that shit out of here. It's not worth it. Just ignore those stupid people. Um, the next bit of news we have is actually publishing related news. DK Publishing is going to be releasing the Star Wars Encyclopedia, which I believe this is a second or third version. Um, but this is going to be by Dan Brooks, who writes for StarWars.com, Megan Krause, who also writes for Star Wars, but she has done a lot for Star Wars Insider, as well as Dino Greek. She also, I believe, co-wrote the High Republic character encyclopedia that you have. Kelly Knox, which we know and love, also participated. Amy Ratcliffe has done a lot of writing for Star Wars. Amy Rochelle, who wrote on Star Wars Timelines and the High Republic Character Encyclopedia. And I'm going to mispronounce this. And I'm sorry, Amy, I probably mispronounced your last name too. So I'm sorry. But Brandon Weinerdy, uh, who contributes for Star Wars. He also hosts Talking Bay 94, which is another Star Wars podcast. And Dan Zier, who hosts Coffee with Kenobi, have all participated in writing this. So this is a group effort. It's got a lot of fans involved in some of their first publications. Really good opportunity, and a lot of people are excited about this one.
What do you think the price point of a Star Wars encyclopedia is gonna be?
Timelines was $50.
Timelines was
So
50. The character
it was
encyclopedia
like
that I have,
35, wasn't it?
the back of this book says 21.99.
Okay. I don't remember what I
So
paid for it. Andrew says $75.
Andrew says 75. That okay, so I'm honestly, Andrew, you're kind of close to where I was. I was gonna say anywhere from 49.99 to 69.99 is kind of where I'm thinking this might land.
Yeah.
Um,
This this will not be a day one purchase for me. But it might be something that like goes on my Christmas list. Or like I like to keep a list of books that I like to look at and go, okay, is it on sale? And then
yes, I
pick it up.
think this will be definitely a book, and the very, like, sad thing right now is I kind of technically downgraded my living space when moving up to Indiana. I have no space for books. Currently, all of my books are still in a box. Um, and even timelines. At the time that I bought it, Amberlyn was still so little. She wasn't tall enough or walking to like grab things. Amberlyn is grabbing everything that is on the edge of every single table or desk or counter or anything. So, like right now, my green highlighter that I use for points of interest in my reading is now gone. It disappeared because Amberlyn was playing with my highlighters and I found all of them hiding in different spots around the house and I can't find the green one. So I'm going to have to go find a new green highlighter.
So
Um
what you're telling me is I need to clean up my office and remove my coffee table books.
Yes, coffee table books, are no longer a thing for me as of right now, especially with the type of pages that they print for those things, very easily rippable.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna take out timelines for probably another 10 years, which is really sad. Um, but it
You
all
could
depends
probably get
on
away with it like 3 or 4.
uh, maybe. Like Katie, she's a handful. She's a handful. And you have 2 dogs. Like, that's the thing. Like, her and Flynn together, my god, it's just like, like, you having 2 dogs and a child on the way, like, bless your heart. Like, I don't know how you're gonna do it.
I may have to pick caffeine back up. No, just kidding. Because I did caffeine 2 days last week and had a panic attack in the airport. So,
Oh, jeez.
not worth it. I could do it like a day at a time.
Oh, man.
Andrew says, "I don't own the Timelines book, but I did check it out from my library." Yeah.
It's
Local
nice.
libraries
I
is great.
really do enjoy it. I like the page design. I like the design of the entire book, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
We've nitpicked a few things that were really, as far as like, is that really set in the timeline where it's supposed to be? Katie was super quick to do that. I think Chris had mentioned something that was posted online and we had a whole discussion about it. Um, but I'm
And
really
I didn't go
curious. Oh,
through
go
and
ahead.
nitpick. I didn't go through and nitpick timelines. I just found what other people were nitpicking because I probably would have read everything and been like, "Oh yeah, cool, awesome."
And then it
Which I
just
did
they
with the
brought it
MCU
to your
one.
attention at that point. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I talked
I'm
about this when reading ACOTAR with because if you know anything about Sarah J. Maas's stuff, everybody likes to theorize about everything, and I'm trying to avoid her spoilers for, like, the latest book that have come out because now I've been sucked in and I just wanna read everything before actually, like, getting spoiled. Um, and, like, it's insane. Like, I don't
yeah.
think about these things at all. I don't theorize. I'm not a theory person.
um But speaking of timelines and publication of novels, this is a great time to bring up. I did receive the character encyclopedia. Um, it is in hardcover. I will say I love the design. Immediately when you open the book, it has this
Uh,
awesome yellow page copy of what the cover is. There is a forward by Christina in there as well, which is really, really cool. And then there's a two-page timeline that has the start from 500 BBY all the way to 229 BBY. So I think that is very, very cool. But the very last thing it says a grim anniversary, and it talks about the anniversary, the 1 year anniversary of the fall of Starlight Beacon, is which is where phase three starts. And this is
yeah.
where I'm like, I kind of like we just very vaguely talked about it before we started talking about this. We know that events are going to happen during the
Yeah.
next 3 actual years of the release of phase 3, which they are going to have to include in a new volume of a character encyclopedia. Why not just wait for this thing until phase 3 is completely finished? That's like, why would you do that to people?
Um, it's a money grab, obviously. B, and I can see wanting to get a character encyclopedia out to the people who will definitely use this because this is a book that I will look through probably once or twice and then be like, okay, cool. And it'll go on my shelf and it'll probably stay there until
Mhm.
like I want to research something. It's not going to be something that I go, oh yeah, let me read the character encyclopedia. Like,
Yeah.
no, that's just not me. Um, I think a lot of people use it for the art aspect, and finally getting to see some of these characters brought to life because I know some of them that are in the character encyclopedia have not been given fan art before. Um, so I think that's pretty important to do, especially with the representation that the High Republic gives to so many of the underrepresented classes of people, the LGBTQ plus community, people of color. So I think it is a good move, even though I would have preferred them to wait until I could just buy one book. Um, Plus, I think you can do some different things with the character designs and kind of talk about where like Avar Chris is in the character encyclopedia volume 1 and the character encyclopedia volume 2. So,
Mhm.
I think that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Now,
I will say I will probably have this on hand every single time that um I read a High Republic book now because you know I wasn't gonna let you just call me out. You mentioned when we were texting back and forth, you're like, "Oh, I think it's so cool that they are using such and such from phase two." Little spoiler
yeah.
there. Um, and my mind just went, huh? And I just responded, yeah, exclamation point. And I was like, what the heck? And then I got this in the mail and I was like, oh, maybe I can go look them up and try to remember what they were. Thankfully, the characters were even brought up again near the end of the book. But like it, for me, again, I say this every single time we talk about content. I'm consuming so much of it. It's like in one ear and out the other, basically,
Yeah.
on a lot of stuff. So having this encyclopedia, having a visual reminder of who characters are, that's going to be a very fun thing, and I do appreciate it.
That's also just what I use Wikipedia for. I literally I Googled I was like, because I was recognizing the last name of this character, and I was like, "What is this?" And then the phase 2 mention came up, and I was like, "Ah, that's what it is."
Yep.
Um, so I usually and I did a lot of it with towards the end. I was like, character name, Star Wars, because sometimes if you don't search Star Wars, some weird shit will pop up on the internet. I swear. Um, don't don't try it. Um, but yeah, I
Mhm.
use Wikipedia a lot because it's just easier for me to pull out my phone, especially with if like I'm reading off my Kindle, like it's just a lot easier for me to go, okay, I have my Kindle, I have my phone, I can just look on my phone.
Yeah,
So
for sure. But is there anything else in the news cycle, or do you want to jump in right into this review?
please hold. I just got a text from my mom. Um, she said she told me today, "You never get any of my purses or clothing when I offer them up to my other two siblings." And she just actually texted something, and I saw the picture, and I was like, "I actually kind of want that one." So it's kind of funny.
Oh, that's great.
um, so okay, so the last bit of news, which I don't really consider this news, but a lot of people actually did, was that the Raylo kiss in The Rise of Skywalker
Ah, yes.
was actually Adam's last scene. And if I don't know if you remember this because you weren't really a part of Star Wars Twitter at the time, but there was a rumor that one of the flight attendants had seen Adam at like towards the end of the Star Wars Rise of Skywalker production, and he was just dazed. And like flight attendants asked him if he was okay and everything. So that was like a big rumor. Um, so like the kiss was Adam's last scene, and Daisy's reaction shot as he fades away was a pickup much later on. So it was in the reshoot process.
Very interesting. And then I kind of created a meme with Travis loves Adam Driver, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be Travis when he reads about this, and it's Kylo Ren yelling no, but he said, you know what? I don't care. The kiss is still canon, or the swapping of spit is still canon. Is I believe the quote he used, um, and I think that's what most people just want anyway.
Yeah.
Is that scene, and they got that scene. Um, it's interesting. I wouldn't call this news. I think you're right. This isn't news. It's just a fun fact. And I would be interested to hearing why that was his last scene, even with the rumors of him being dazed, like was he being difficult on set? Was he just not having it? Like that would I would be interested to hear what came about to make them to be like, maybe we don't need to work with Adam anymore for this movie. Let's go ahead and just kill him off, and then there we go. We're done with them. Cool.
Well, and I mean, he specifically said, like when asked about his Star Wars career, like, "Oh yeah, I had fun, but I'm done with that," kind
Yeah.
of thing. Which Harrison Ford, obviously, y'all. Um, I I wouldn't be concerned as to that being like his last scene. Um, it's just interesting to me that you go with the original reaction where he could have potentially stuck around and you have like this, I'm gonna say, magical moment for Raylo fans. Um, and then all of a sudden, like they choose the him disappearing and becoming a force ghost was like, okay, bye. And it was an add-in later on. Like, that's a little weird to me. Um, the pickup, again, it being a pickup is only interesting because it means they changed the story later on
Yeah.
to have him actually die. So, yeah. All right. Are we ready to talk about this little wonderful book?
Yes. Yes. We are ready.
Okay. So, y'all, this is the point of the episode where this book released yesterday. It did release yesterday. So, or 2 days ago, if you're listening to this on the podcast feed. So obviously we know that this does not give everybody a chance to read it or listen to it, especially considering, and Michael Siglain did confirm this, the audiobook is not going to be out until March for this book. And he did not respond to anyone who asked about the Defied of the Storm book audiobook. So
Oh no.
yeah.
Is
I'm really
Defy the
sad about
Storm Disney Publishing also?
yeah. You got it in the same package, buddy.
It's your first 2 books of the phase, people. Like, okay, not first. It's the first 3. Like you like first book went off without a hitch. Cool. Like Disney, I need to have a word with Disney Publishing because this is going to be if Defy the Storm has a delay, this is now going to be your 3rd Disney Publishing Star Wars novel
For the High Republic. For the
for
High
the High
Republic.
Republic that has been delayed a by a very large margin from
Yeah.
January from technically no, it's still January. From January all the way to March, that's a lot. Like that imagine pre-ordering a book for the release date and then saying, "Hey, you actually can't get it for another month." Do you like just in the retrospect of like how me and Katie have this book finished because of course got it early, but like there's people out there who have already probably finished this book and it's already been out for a day because people just love the book, like the series that much. There's going to be so many people talking about this book and then you can't even read it yet because you prefer audiobooks from physical novels. That's not cool. Like I have a huge problem with Disney Publishing with this High Republic phase.
Yeah. Um and you have to wonder if it's got to do with some of the staffing changes that have happened. Not going to go too much into that because obviously the people who are working at Disney right now can't control what they can't control. Like it is what it is. Um I it not releasing the audiobook on time, and I know a lot of books don't get audiobooks, y'all. I've
Mhm.
gotten into reading some of like the indie publishing and stuff, and like audiobooks can be 2 years later when the book gets popular and they go, okay, yeah, now we can do an audiobook. Um, but in this case, especially with it being a major company, um, and this is like one of your major brands, not having the audiobook is alienating a lot of people. My sister only does audiobooks, for instance. With her dyslexia, she can't focus enough to read from an actual book. And that's
Mhm.
just something her therapists that she worked with growing up have all said like, "Oh yeah, you just need to do audiobooks." Um so it's alienating a whole group of people from being able to read this, and it's down the line it gets to the point where it's like, do I actually need to read this one? Especially with it being a middle grade book. Like you want people to pick it up immediately.
Mhm.
And I think it would also be another thing if they had the ability to do the pre-orders instead of it just being like, "Oh yeah, here it is, release date." Like, good to go. If you had the pre-orders, then that's also benefiting your authors long term because like getting on bestsellers lists and everything, it all depends on that first week of sale. So, for most people, obviously. Sometimes it doesn't matter, but uh, yeah, I need them to get this together because Crimson Climb worked out. So why did Crimson Climb work out and then Escape from Valo and Path of Vengeance have not?
Mhm.
Um, like, can we need to talk about this. So,
The this book takes place, I believe, after. Well, that's interesting because there is no direct reference to Eye of Darkness, as far as I remember.
um, so the V18 with the Bombrax when they return, they bring news
Oh,
from the
that
front
they
lines.
were able to. Yeah, yeah.
I'm assuming that's the reference.
Yeah, you're able to kind of sneak it into the timeline with that. That's true. So this does take place after Eye of Darkness. Um, it has one returning character in Ram Jamaram as far as
True.
the
Like,
two
main character.
main characters.
The
Yes.
Master makes an appearance in, um the middle grade book from Wave 1, Master Anju R.
Oh, yes, Crash Point
So,
Tower, the one that I have not
yeah.
read. So that's why I, only
Well,
thought about Ram.
yeah, he makes the appearance there, and then, I believe he is in The Rising Storm briefly mentioned because he runs the temple. Um,
Oh, okay. Okay.
and it's the same way, like, Ram makes an appearance in The Rising Storm. It's a
Mhm.
crossover scene
God,
of
that feels like
from
ages
Crash
ago
Bandicoot.
already.
I know, we should have got a reread in. Who are we?
Well,
Uh,
no, like, now that I know this book is directly, like, there is heavy references to, what happened in The Rising Storm. For anybody who wants to, like, go back and reread it, I highly suggest that you do, so everything is fresh on your mind for this book, for sure.
yeah. Um, yeah. Um, I was gonna say something and I totally forgot. So I'm just gonna jump on a new train. So this is Alyssa Wong's first published book. They did do work for Tales of the Jedi, or
Mhm,
sorry, Tales of Light and Life.
mhm.
Um, with the short story, but this is the first time that they have actually like done obviously like half the work or more on a physical book. So that is a moment for them, especially considering today was the last issue for Dr. Afra. So right now Alyssa Wong is not contracted for anything in Star Wars. Like they are still a part of like the High Republic team, but like y'all, I need her Star Wars, please.
I
Them.
I need well, it's not necessarily I need because, well, for one, I do need to pick up Dark Afra because I have yet to read it. But if I was in any type of team with any type of publishing with Star Wars, I would be saying, "Hey, we need them to stay here." And
Yeah.
if I was any type of publishing outside of Star Wars, I would be trying to lure them in. They have done an excellent job. Clearly, with their work on Dr. Aphra, they're deeply loved by many, many fans.
Oh,
And the work that I'm seeing here and the interview that she did, it was I didn't know this was a thing. But just like actors interviewing actors or whatever
yeah.
it's called with Variety, there was also a author with authors, and Daniel Jose Older and Alyssa Wong had a conversation about like when they first met, when they started to work together, like and like the adventure of writing this book together. It's a very fun read. I highly suggest that you guys go read it. It is actually on StarWars.com. I
Yeah.
do believe. So go check that out. Um, but I really did enjoy this book. There was three original characters that I think I immediately fell in love with. Um, they are
I
very,
loved
very
Gabby.
interesting. Gabby is a very interesting character. Um, and I also want to ask you, is this the first time that and I almost feel like they did it because it is more of a younger readers and just because of what is very popular in the genre of fiction. Is this the first time that the Force has been somewhat seen as like different superpowers between Force users? Because the
Um,
way that Gavi's relationship with the Force and like even Ram's relationship with the Force, this was new to me. Um or Ram's relationship with the Force is like it's a machine, kind of like how with oh shoot, names escaping me.
so
Um
to answer your question, no. Um, so it was explored in Light of the Jedi with kind of showcasing Stellan, Avar, and Elzar's perception on the Force. This is probably the first time that it has been more articulated. I do so Crash Point Tower and Midnight Horizon dive into Ram's perception of the Force as technology. And that's how he's able to fly the drill ship thing in
In
Midnight
this in
Horizon.
yeah, yeah. Uh,
Um,
See, I don't remember much of his relationship with the Force being explored in Midnight Horizon. Uh,
Midnight
but here
Horizon gets
I
hefty though.
in here, like I do feel like they explained it very well. And just like Stellan, well, I don't remember what Stellan's relationship with the Force was. Uh
Let's just go with Avar because Avar is the song of the Force, and
Avar is
they
the
have
song. Oh shoot, it's Stellan,
Elzar.
Avar, Elzar. Elzar is an ocean. It's the ocean, the
Yeah,
water. Um, that like I can see that, but Gavi, I think is very interesting. He sees threads
yeah,
throughout the Force, and they are bound together because of relationships
yeah,
in his perspective. And he has three that are very heavily intertwined. And this book, it has a really interesting way of working with flashbacks, because
yeah,
it is mostly Gavi's perspective, when it comes to these flashbacks, um, because it talks about his relationship with one of his friends, Drigget,
yep,
I believe her name is.
yeah.
Um,
And Drigget is currently working with the Nihil,
yeah,
to kind of protect the people of Valo.
and this I love Drigget as a character because she is a complicated character.
Yep.
Her heart is pulled in two different directions, and there is this sense of like, oh, these are my friends, I can't hurt them, but this is my home planet, and the people that I absolutely hate will not leave until these Jedi are gone. So, in order to save my planet, keep my family safe, I have to kill my friends.
Hmm.
That's a messed up way of thinking. And there's
Yeah,
so many different times throughout the novel where you're like, "Oh, she's on the good side. Oh, she's on the bad side. Oh, she's tricking the Nihil to help the Jedi, and oh no, wait, that was actually not what she was doing." Like there's so many twists and turns with her character. It doesn't make it annoying. Somehow it all works, and I do enjoy
yeah.
that.
And this is the character Drigget. She will be making further appearances in the High Republic Adventures.
Awesome.
Um, so that is her. A lot of people thought this was I can't think of his name. The kid villain from the High Republic Adventures Phase
Oh,
1.
yes, yes.
A lot
Uh-huh.
of people thought that uh he had decided to be trans. So, um,
That
but
would
this
have
is
been an
actually
interesting
Drigget.
choice.
So, and there's a lot of representation in this book for the LGBTQ plus community. Gabby
Mhm,
has a crush on Kildo, and they actually kind of delve into those feelings a little bit right at the very end um, with each other, and Kildo is very accepting of that. And then Zyle, who
mhm,
is related to Saya Keen
mhm,
um, from the High Republic Adventures Phase 2, uh, is non-binary. So
mhm.
that is some really good representation. We don't get a lot of gay relationships in Star Wars. Like lesbians has been more of a thing, but like the gay relationship, and
I was
it
I
was
was
good to see that representation.
I was happy to see it. I was a little disappointed that there was really nothing there. Like they acknowledged that they had feelings for each other,
Yeah,
and then after that, Gavi, and kind of skipping to the end here, but Gavi decided, "Hey, I have to stay on this planet, so we can't really have a relationship."
Yeah.
And I was a little upset about that because one thing that I did tell a friend of mine recently when talking about the High Republic is because we were just having a conversation about how like the exclusion of relationships is what brings everybody to the dark side. Um, like, and what we are learning in the High Republic is that you can bend the rules a little bit and still be a force for good. And like, I really like because of what happened with Drigget, like I really needed Gabby to be able to have that relationship with Kildo, so that way it would have Gabby would have somebody to actually like lean on, and like that's a lot of trauma with them having somebody who was almost a like forgotten twin basically.
Yeah.
Because Drigget unrelated, which when I was reading they meet Drigget's parents, we
Yes.
as the readers meet Drigget's parents, and all of a sudden she says, "Oh, my long lost son," and I was like, "Oh, highlight, highlight, highlight." And then I read it further, and it's like, "Oh wait, they're not really related," and
Yeah.
I got a little disappointed. But like, even still, like that
Yeah.
was a very like there was emotion there. There was a lot of relationship and trust and all of these different things that throughout this book is being torn apart, and it's absolutely insane.
Yeah. I didn't read too much into the long lost son comment because I figured the Jedi would not have allowed for him to grow up in the Temple of Valo. They would have sent him to a different
Somewhere
temple.
else. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but it was a cool reference, and seeing the flashbacks as he kind of grows closer to Drigget the whole way through, was really nice. And I like that she's still keeping the scarf that he made for
Mhm,
her.
mhm,
I think that's important, and it'll come back around. Like I would imagine we're gonna see Gabby come in towards the end of the High Republic Adventures, like we saw Ram come in
mhm.
towards the end. Uh I think that just makes sense, especially once the Republic explores the storm wall a little bit more
Yeah,
and
and
gets through it.
by the end of this book, Drigget has plans. We don't know what they are, but she is plotting.
Yep.
She hates the Nihil just as much as she is perceived to hate the Jedi here. And like I think she wants to go to the source. I think she is going to try
Yeah.
to destroy them from within, which is going to be a very interesting aspect to this character who is, you know, by all means, not the hero of these stories. She's not a Jedi. She's not a Force user.
Yeah.
She's just a citizen of Valo that is tired of the Nihil.
Yep.
So I'm really interested to see her story progress.
Yeah. I I wanna see Drigget and Nan play off of each other. That's who I wanna
Oh
see
yeah,
Drigget
okay.
interact with Nan. Um, Especially getting into Marchion setting up, like, his own government and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, it'll be really interesting, I think, to see. And I'm excited to see what the High Republic Adventures does because Daniel Jose Older has done an incredible job with that comic. And obviously, we don't know which parts of this book were written by Alyssa and which parts were written by Daniel. So
Mhm.
I think overall, this is an incredible um, short read. I mean, I read it over, I think, 4 days, but that's because my brain has been like bouncing all over the place. Um, and I wanted to make sure that I actually read the book and, remembered what was going on. Um, so, yeah, I really enjoyed this. I liked getting Ram as more of a grown-up because we know that well, okay, we assume that if he had stayed, like, in Republic territory and had not gone into the Nihil territory, then he would have become a Jedi Knight by now. He would have been
Mhm.
upgraded as part of the Guardian protocols. So he would have been a knight, and he was really trying to do his best to teach the younglings and everything, and it was good to see that, especially after Midnight Horizon. I need to know what Wreath is doing. I'm
So
desperate for Wreath.
I I so just like how Percy Jackson got me, um Escape from Valo got me in the very beginning of the book. Um Shadow character, black cloak, red lightsaber, highlight, highlight, highlight. What's going on here? And just finding out that Ram was just being very cheeky with some new upgrades to his lightsaber. Um was a little disappointing, but very clever. And then later on, you have these discussions with the other Jedi, like these people don't know a damn thing about the Sith. Like
Yeah.
I think it at one point, the villain of this story, I can't remember his name, calls them like the uh what does he call them? Like the Frith or something. He calls them like something completely different, not the Sith. And it's just like it goes to show you like yeah, you put on this persona of like a dark Jedi or an evil Jedi for no actual reason. Uh, to the
Yeah,
point of him actually making these upgrades to all the other kids too. And so they're all having red lightsabers, but it's at this point it's just for the gimmick of the Scarlet Skulls, which is a
yep,
callback to Midnight Horizon
yep.
when they had disguised themselves to get into that party.
The party, yeah.
Yeah. Which
And I
I thought was really fun.
and I did not realize this, but also, the Higher Republic Adventures Phase 2 had 2 former Scarlet Skull initiatives in it. I did not I read a couple issues of the Phase 2 High Republic Adventures, so I did
Mhm.
not read all of it, but that was also another tie-in, was, the Midnight Horizon was an Easter egg for where Daniel was going in Phase 2 with the
That's
comic.
pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I
Uh
love seeing these authors get to tie in things and play around with what's going on. It's just a really fun adventure. Um, and because I don't typically see that, I somehow caught on to that. But like typically I see this on Twitter where
yeah.
people are like, "Oh, this connects to this." Again, I don't theorize people at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's just really fun.
I'm trying to think of some other things that maybe I've highlighted um
You would
or
be proud of me. I didn't actually highlight a single thing in this book. You did more highlighting than I did.
I know I think I tried to at least highlight every chapter or every other chapter until Amber Lynn stole my freaking highlighters and I couldn't do it. Um
They weren't like good highlighters, were they? They were like dollar store highlighters.
no, they were like Office Space highlighters. So
Okay.
uh I highlighted things that like quotes from people. Oh, so like the one thing that I highlighted in both yellow and green, I highlighted it in green because it's a story plot thing, and green is a point of interest. Is when Driggett's mom said, "My little Jedi son," and I was like, "Oh my god!" But then it turned out to be nothing. Um, but like one thing here, uh, like I do like Zyle's character. We haven't really talked about Zyle too much. Um Zyle came in as into the plot of the story as a informant of his mother's. They are working with the Nihil, basically a means to an end because
Yeah.
they're pirates. Yeah, like you can technically call Nihil pirates too, but they've become so much more than that since phase 1, and especially at the start of phase 3. So she tells Zyle like, "Hey, just stay on the ship, get as much information as we can. If we can beat them to a score, that's what we'll do. If we need to take them down somewhere, that's what we'll do." And they developed this relationship with Gavi, with uh with Kildo, with what's her name? Um, who's the other youngling?
Tap tap.
Yes. Um, she's adorable. I absolutely love her.
Yeah.
But
And I love the
Zyle,
animal connection. I always love seeing the Jedi interact with animals.
yes. Her, like, even when she talks to the worm at the very end, she's like, "Go home, leave. We don't need you anymore." And like, I just like it's this monstrosity of a thing that has literally no
It's like the
like
doom
eyes
worm.
or it is like a doom worm, and she's like talking to it like a cat. Um, but like Zyle has a little bit of an attitude, a little bit of an ego, at the start of this,
Mhm.
and even teases Gavi a whole lot because Zyle is a person that has been all over the place. He has seen all different types of people. He knows of the Jedi, he knows of the Force because of his family heritage. And so when he reads the room with Gavi having these feelings of Kildo, he like kind of starts to flirt with Kildo a little bit, but like not
Yeah.
with sorry, they start to flirt with Kildo, not because they have feelings for him, but just to poke at Gavi. Um, and there's even a moment where like Ram is talking to the team about like what they need to do. And then when he gives them all the upgrades to the lightsaber, he even gives one to Zyle. And like Zyle starts to tear up. He's like, I'm a part of y'all's team. Oh, yeah. It's
Yes.
it's a fun little family. And even Ram being the oldest one, Ram knowing the importance of like not having too many connections and attachments and things like that. Him and Gabby have a very serious conversation about like the importance of like losing people and leadership and all of these things. Ram says like y'all are mine. Like I can't just let y'all go out and do something super dangerous because it could have y'all killed. We could fail. And like he says it several times, y'all are mine, y'all are mine, and they've created this small little family, and I really do enjoy it.
Yeah. And I think that's what prompts Gabby to stay at the end
Mhm.
is that conversation with Ram, but also having the force back. It kind of leads him because he kind of was like, okay, so my choice has been made for me because the force doesn't want to talk to me anymore. Like I want to go pursue Kildo. And not that there's again anything wrong with pursuing relationships on both sides, but I think with the way Gabby's been taught, he goes, okay, the force has chosen to come back to me, so now I need to choose the force.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, I don't want to go too much more into the plot because, again, very it's a middle grade book, which doesn't mean you should skip it, but that means that while it is a thick, chunky girl, it is actually short compared to most books because of the height. So,
Yeah, with
um,
a total of if you go all the way to the end of the epilogue, 369 pages.
yes. Jeez, she's having fun right now on my ribs, and apparently a kidney. It's very interesting. I just sorry, squirrel, but like this is distracting me right now a lot.
Not going too far into the plot. I'm trying to think if there is anything else. Again, just like Katie said, um, I don't think it is one that you should automatically say, "Oh, it's a kid's book. I don't need to read it." Um, all of the High Republic books have had a very interesting way of making things a must buy in some capacity,
Mhm,
whether that be because of representation, whether that be because of a life lesson that is learned in a not very cheesy way is one of the best things that I love when it comes to these novels is that like it's not so much like in your face Saturday morning cartoon style. It is
mhm.
dealing with real problems and teaches you things. So I do enjoy that. Um, but yeah, for this being the second book of phase 3, um, I do like it as a second book because you get a lot of heavy-handed stuff in the Eye of Darkness. This as a small little chaser and breather does help you a whole lot.
Yeah, for sure. Um, the other thing I just thought about wanted to ask you. So there is a nameless in this book. He actually gets a name, Grindelic. And we find out that the Nihil are trying to hatch the eggs that they brought from the mysterious planet X. Um, and that Grindelic is so far the only one who has survived because he accidentally got slathered in this anti-aging cream. And so that is why Niv Drendov is there on Valo, is to
Mhm.
because of the ship that crashed at the Republic Fair was supposed to be carrying some of it. So, what do you think about that?
Um, it's a little silly, um, the anti-aging cream, um, just because, there is again, not gonna get too far into the plot, there is something else that is on the ship that the, band of heroes is trying to find, while the Nihil is trying to look for anti-aging cream. It kinda makes you hard stop when you're reading, when they talk about it, it's just like, this sounds very silly. Like, when you talk about the seriousness of what is all going on, and then be like, "Oh, but I need this anti-aging cream." Very, very silly. Um, but the idea of this somehow being in the favor of the nameless and helping them in some capacity,
Mhm.
I now need to know the chemical breakdown of this anti-aging cream. Like,
Yeah.
what is it in the Star Wars universe that is helping these creatures? I think that's where we're probably gonna go. Because at that point, I feel like there's gonna be a way to destroy the nameless. If you can find the component that helps them, you can easily find the component that kills that thing, you know?
Right.
Um,
And Grindelic was not thriving by any means. He
no.
was like
Uh,
rotting flesh. Like I was like, ugh.
the way
Um,
they described it was pretty gross. Like Zao kind of got up and personal with it when
yeah.
they were hiding in cabinets and like flesh was just like falling through cracks and stuff. Really,
Yes.
really gross. Um, but this was also a very tiny nameless to the point of like it could perch up on people's shoulders and stuff.
Yeah, which
Um,
I can't imagine.
like when you look at a nameless in any capacity of like comics or even the art that has been displayed, these things are massive. Um, it could easily be like compared to like a lion at a zoo.
Yeah.
Like boom, that big. You look at a lion cub, lion cubs can't perch on a shoulder. So it's even like it goes from a house cat to an actual wild lion in size.
Yeah.
Um
Like
I'm really
the
like, oh, go
scientist
ahead.
is carrying it around in a briefcase.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really interested to like because there is a lot mentioned via, I believe, Eye of Darkness, and even here about like Markion going to get eggs and things. So, like, are we going back to that? Are we going back to Planet X in phase 3?
If we do go back to Planet X in phase 3, I need it to be like actually articulated like where is it and like how they're getting there because this is driving me insane. Um I'm not huge into this like, oh yeah, let's hide this mysterious planet. Like that's not what I want to do.
Hmm.
Um I need and especially because we went there in phase one with um the comic that Charles Soule did, and then we went there like 2 or 3 times in phase two.
Mhm.
So I'm like, can we just kind of know where it is now? And like, I would kind of like to see it in one of these books to actually get the artwork on the planet. Like I know we
Ooh,
went there
that
with
would be
Marta
really fun. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
get like Marta's with Path of Vengeance, like articulated like the imagery and everything. But I want to actually like see it, and I don't want the trippy artwork that was in the Charles Soule comic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want it like legit. So,
For sure.
I think that's it for me though. I mean, these reviews for these books are always kind of simple
Mhm.
because it's so short and the plot is very simple. So like you don't want to get too much into that and like spoil it, but I think we talked about a lot of the characters in their trips. They do end up escaping from Valo at the end as the title indicates. So
Mhm.
I wouldn't consider that a spoiler. um so yeah.
Yeah, I again, I really enjoyed this book. Took me like a week and a half to finish it. So, for somebody who, you know, doesn't read as fast as Katie, I still think it's a very simple read. This book actually has 3 parts. It's cut up into 3 different parts. So if you want to cut it up into sections to read, it's very easily to do so. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the character design of these characters. I think that Alyssa Wong did an amazing job in her collaboration with Daniel Jose Older in this. They did a great job in creating a novel with characters that I am very interested in seeing throughout phase three. So uh, I think they did their job. And yeah, that is going to be it for I believe this review. So you can always find me at Fanboy Clay on Twitter. Anywhere else, I do have a job that has my weekends open. So I am going to try and bring back some streaming. So be on the lookout for that on my Twitch channel. Um, and I will announce this. Uh, Batman News Weekly is officially over. We
Oh,
just
I'm sorry.
because
I
of
thought it was coming back.
no, no, no. Yeah, I know she was like raising the roof, like, yeah, Clay's gonna do more stuff. No, uh my co-host was doing it on his own for a little bit because I was kind of getting situated in this new job. We were going to try to find a schedule to make it work, and he just wasn't having any fun with it anymore. So we decided to call it quits for the podcast. I think we did an excellent job. We hit some amazing numbers on YouTube for some random videos. It's actually pretty hilarious. So if you want to go check out that, you can always go check it out on YouTube. All 230 something episodes are there. But I'm still here at the GUA with, of course, here at Star Wars Alliance and Ranger Alliance, which me and well, just me because Joe had some personal stuff going on earlier this week. A new episode of Ranger Alliance is out there. So go check that out. And me and Jake will be picking it back up in February.
Awesome. Y'all, you can find me on most social media platforms. It is at Slice of Katie. This show you can find on Twitter. It is at Star Wars Alliance with the A in the Wars. Very important. Don't forget it. You can also send us a text at 830-538-4828. Make sure you leave us a nickname, something just to call you out on the show. And shout you out. So do that. The other place that you can talk to us is at our email. It is Star Wars Alliance at gmail.com. Remember, there's no A in the wars ever if you see us, if you see that username somewhere. So just remember that. Um, my brain is fried, so I'm gonna go ahead and end it before I. So I hope you guys have a great day or night, whatever time of day you are listening or watching, and we will see y'all next time. May the force be with you.